having been warned in a dream, says Matthew, not to return to Herod, the Magi left for their own country by another way. Christmas is over. We were a little late with everything Christmas this year at our house. We did not get around to our annual gingerbread building project until maybe the 9th or 10th day of Christmas. But construction finally underway, I headed to CVS, hoping that they still had a bunch of leftover candy that we could use to decorate our gingerbread house, our gingerbread clock tower, and of course our gingerbread pub. When I got to CVS, sure enough, the candy aisle was full, but it was full of Valentine's Day candy. I hope you're all stocked up already for that because it's coming. Waited all year, it's almost here. But I'm not quite done with Christmas. And maybe you still have a decoration or two up as well. That's fine because tradition from the Middle Ages tell us that we can leave Christmas decorations in place until Candlemas, February 2nd, otherwise known as Groundhog Day. That might not, though, include your dried out and highly flammable Christmas tree. Here at St. Paul and St. Andrew, we're also not quite done with Christmas. The wreaths are gone, but there's still plenty of poinsettias, and we're still thinking together about this important, powerful origin story of Jesus. A story which, in a poignant and powerful way, is also our own origin story as Christians, as followers of the one born in Bethlehem. By next week, sad to say, as the Revised Common Lectionary urges us forward, we will be dealing with a fully grown-up Jesus. But for this moment, we are sticking with the infant Jesus of the Epiphany, because Christmas is not quite done with us yet. Now, as we read along in the Gospel of Matthew, we usually stop the Christmas story just in time. Everybody makes it to Bethlehem, Jesus is born, the Magi show up, 12 days late, but they're there, and they give their completely inappropriate baby gifts. All is calm, all is bright, curtain comes down. But we need to keep reading. When we keep reading, we see that the story moves on. The nativity scene does not remain safely static. The Magi get up and leave. They're not from there. They need to get home. Maybe there are other stars that need to be followed. They go another way. Those wise ones, they're supposed to report back to Herod, but they get warned that perhaps Herod is not so benevolent, not so safe as he seemed, so they go another way. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph are left in peace, but we need to keep reading, because when we keep reading, we find that the little town of Bethlehem, far from being a place of peace and silence, safety and security, is about to become a very dangerous place for children. We just read the story. We know where it's going. It's going to death and despair and fear and flight. It's a story that I think shouldn't surprise us. As people who are aware of things going on in Ukraine or Yemen or Gaza, in Venezuela or Honduras or Eritrea, or here in our own country. It's a story that should be familiar to us and should remind us that the world can be a perilous place for children. And so our Christmas story doesn't end there in Bethlehem, because warned by some random angel that seems to have his back, Joseph and his family cross the border to Egypt, where they find safety. Not the first or the last Jewish family to have to flee for their lives. Not the first or the last people of all kinds to have to be forced to leave a beloved homeland in fear and in hope. Wouldn't it be great to have some more details in the story at this point, Matthew, wherever you are? How did they travel there? Did they go by donkey, by road, by leaky, overfilled boat? How did they get across the border? Did they come through the desert by night, evading the Egyptian equivalent of our border patrol agents? And once in Egypt, who gave them shelter? Who took them in? Who took a risk so that these foreigners could be safe, could be okay, could live? Who in Egypt understood that this family seeking asylum were escaping violence rather than bringing it with them? Who understood that these three migrants were fleeing fear and terror, that they had come not to upend Egyptian politics or take Egyptian jobs, but they came because they didn't have a choice but to come. Over the past few months, as we've gotten to know more migrant families and individuals, including the 5 guys who are living upstairs here at the church, and as on Monday mornings, we've gotten to know those coming by for backpacks and health supplies that many of you have been packing, food, clothing, legal advice, and mutual aid. As we've heard the tales told by some of the families from PS 87 who have begun using our kitchen downstairs because they're not permitted to cook food in the shelters where they're staying, it has been so inspiring to hear some of their stories, their origin stories, their stories of life back in Venezuela or Ecuador or Peru, life that was once okay, but that became desperate and dangerous, so desperate and dangerous that, like the Holy Family, they were forced to flee across borders. And that's the story we hear from each family, each person, that they have come because it was not possible to stay. Friends, these are people so desperate to, wanting so badly to become Americans that they walked here, who want so badly to contribute to this country that they take any job, who want so badly a life of safety for their children that, like Joseph and Mary, they'll cross borders in a quest for that safety. It's always a dangerous and difficult decision. It was for Mary and Joseph and Jesus. But in Egypt, in this new country, somebody welcomes them. Somebody creates space so that they can stay while the danger persists. I wish Matthew had thought to tell us about those people. I wish Matthew had thought to tell us more about these unsung heroes of the Christmas story, these people who gave more than the Magi, who were more faithful than the shepherds, offered hospitality beyond any grudging innkeeper. Someday, I want to see a Christmas pageant that includes the flight to Egypt. Maybe find some kids to play the part of these invisible, unsung, unremembered, unremarkable, and unremarked upon heroes of the story. People who came out of their comfortable spaces to meet Jesus in this terribly difficult place in his life and offer him shelter, offer him life. Because they too are a part of our Christmas origin story. They were guided, maybe not by an angel or a prophecy or a dream or a star, but maybe guided by something deeper, something deep inside them, something more a part of their own stories, their own struggles, their own challenges. They were guided to be in a place where they could love and serve this holy and vulnerable child. I was struck by the story of one of the parents from PS 87 that I met a few weeks back, who was organizing some assistance to the 30 newly arrived families, newly bussed from the border. Now, that school was the third one she had tried for her child in 5 years. And she was so happy, she said, when school started and her child's class was small. And then when 2 weeks later there were suddenly 10 more children in the class, she said she reacted like a typical West Side parent. And then she says she stopped to listen to herself. And she decided to go another way. The Christmas story might remind us of our own origin stories, the places and people and circumstances we're from, those who helped us along the way. Because we each come from somewhere, and someone has brought us along, and something has brought each of us to this place, this time, this moment in the family of faith gathered here. So I want to pause and ask for a second, how many of you were born and raised in New York City? 1, 2, 3, 4. Harry, yes, I remember. How many of you are from somewhere else? Yeah. How many of you are from a different state? Yeah. How many from a different country? If you are like me, thank you, by the way. If you're like me, you've been guided along the way. Maybe not by some star or angel or prophecy or dream, but somehow guided to this point in your life. And you have made choices along the way that led you here to this place now. Jesus, in Matthew's telling, is always regarded as being from somewhere. He is from Bethlehem until it's no longer safe. He's from Egypt until political changes make it possible for his family to return to Judea, where he can't stay long. He's then from Nazareth, a place so off the beaten track that someone in John's gospel asks, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" And when he finally makes his move to Jerusalem, near the end of his life, folks regard him as a nobody from up north, an upstart from upstate. Now, I can say, as someone whose hometown is Massapequa, that it's a fine place to be from, but please don't ever make me go back there. So where are you from? Anybody? Where are you from?
Binghamton. Michigan.
Alabama. All right. Wisconsin. London. Beautiful. Anybody else? Whoa. Yeah. All right. So can anything good come from Michigan or Massapequa? From Tennessee or Texas? Absolutely. Because you did. And you are. And you are. And you're here because wherever you're from, all along your journey, somebody had your back. Somebody helped you along. So where does all this leave us? Who has your back in this time and this place? And whose back do you have? Who are you willing to stand up for? Who are you willing to stand up to? The wise ones are guided by a star, Matthew tells us, and Joseph is guided by a dream. But you've had your own guides, your own goals, your own moments of epiphany. And somehow they have brought you to a certain time and a certain place. Where you go from here is up to you. Where you go and what you do is a choice to be made. But it's my prayer for us all that we find meaning and purpose in this tale of Christmas and are led by whatever to seek out and seek to solace those who, in this time and place, rather like the family of Jesus, need our love, our welcome, our prayers and sustenance. and who, like that family of Jesus, have so very much to offer. Thanks be to God. Let's sing together.